Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are live for Bets and Banter, and we're talking about none other than UFC Abu Dhabi. We've got Robert the Reaper Whittaker looking to get back on track in the middleweight division, and to do so, he will have to stop the rising contender that is Reinier de Ridder. You know that we were cheering for our guy Reinier de Ridder when he put the beats on our guy Bo Nickel in that last fight out. So now excited to see if he could do it in a step up in competition. And guys, we can't do it alone on Bets and Banter. You know that. But our guy, Wiz, he's down for the count. We're going to have something special, a post-weigh-in show with Wiz tomorrow when he is back on the trot. But today, we have a very special guest. I believe a first-time guest of the show. I've done the Beat the Line broadcast with our guy, Picks by Pegasus, before. But it's a pleasure to have you on the show, my man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. And yes, you have. You always helped us out in our show. I'm glad to come save the day and help you out here. We got a good card ahead of us, too. It's going to be an exciting one. I think we're going to get a lot of action.
Lord willing, my brother. And here's the interesting thing for me. I look at this card, and a lot of times I look and I'm like, man, these are the things that are like really jumping out to me. This week, I was like, I don't really feel like there's a ton that's like jumping off the page. Like, I need to play this. So for me, I'm really kind of sifting through, trying to find the diamonds in the rough here. And I do have a few ideas. I'll talk them over with you as we go here.
Okay.
But I certainly think that it's a tricky card, and I'm going to be treading lightly. I know people have mentioned this on other shows, but it is something that bears repeating. Sometimes the judging, sometimes the officiating, a little bit to be desired. And, they kind of work in some guys that are maybe getting their first opportunity in the big show and things like that. And for me, that's always just a liability when you're trying to, predict outcomes in fights. But in any case, I want to shout out everybody who's rocking with us. Shout out to our guy, Aussie, as well. The busiest man on YouTube in the building this week. And we appreciate you, my brother. So without further ado, my man, why don't we pull up this Tapology card and we will start talking with the first fight of the night. We always work from the bottom on up to the top. And you guys may have noticed, we've got the sub-only jiu-jitsu shirt on today, and we had to rep for Marcus Bucésa because he's taking on Martin Budai, and I find this fight fascinating. Bucésa signing pretty much on relatively short notice with the UFC. He's a guy who was kind of languishing off in ONE FC for a time, and now he's getting a big opportunity to come in and make a name for himself. Martin Budai has a very shiny record in the UFC. I think if you guys have watched the fights, maybe they not as good as the record paints, but definitely that's got a body and a skill set for the heavyweight division. He's been going out there grinding out wins. So how do you feel about this first matchup of the night? A UFC debutant against a guy with 7 fights in the promotion, 6 wins. Not the kind of matchmaking you're used to seeing.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Bucésa on the ground is as decorated as they come, right? What's he? Is it 17 or 19 BJJ championship belts? But it's something like that. And, this is where it gets interesting because, we got a guy in Martin Budai, and who's primarily a striker, and then Bucésa, who's a beast on the ground. And, a lot after Walter Walker's third heel hook, we talk about heavyweights and their grappling, right? And now look what we have here. One of the best grapplers at heavyweight making his debut. I think, there's a potential here for him to get a takedown early, get right into the head and arm triangle, something easy like that, like heavyweights normally do. He's no slouch, but I kind of looked at it and took a different angle. My thought process was this: if Bucésa is going to have so much success to get him to the ground, what are the odds he gets a dominant position and reigns ground and pound? His ground and pound is still good, and the KO prop sits at plus 750, plus 800. So I took a sprinkle there just because if Budai is on the ground, he's supposedly a black belt himself, and he's got Marcus on top of him. Odds are he's going to try and fight the sub the best he can, cover up, and he might get finished. But hey, that's my shot at it. At the way to make a minus 200, or now he's like minus 300 favorite, plus 800 by KO. It's a little cheeky, because he's the jiu-jitsu guy, but I think it could be there.
I love that angle, brother. And I'll just be straight up with you. I tweeted out when this fight was announced, and it's a little bit disrespectful. So that's why, I say with a little bit of tongue in cheek, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but the professional video game player against the world-class jiu-jitsu player. I wonder what's going to happen. I just have a feeling when I heard this fight announced, Martin Budai is good for the bottom of the barrel UFC heavyweight. And I don't know where Marcus Bucésa is going to stack up, especially when he goes against strikers, when the takedowns aren't really working. How are the takedowns going to come against Budai in the cage? That for me is like one interesting question about this fight, let's say. But when I just look at these two guys on paper, I have a guy in Martin Budai who like I said, professional video game player. When this guy Bucésa was dominating another combat sport, you mentioned it. He's I believe, 13-time black belt world champion, which is just an incredible resume. Mostly in the gi, he's done no gi as well. He's competed against the very best in the world. And I watched that fight with Rugrug, which is his only loss as a professional. And frankly, like you see in that fight, number one, he doesn't have some of the things that I don't like about jiu-jitsu guys, which is laying on your back, feeling sorry for yourself, getting too tired too fast, and not being willing to throw hands. And in all cases, like, could you say his striking process looks good? No. But is he willing to throw hands? He is. Yeah. And even till the final bell, like he was throwing hard, trying to get Rugrug out of there. And the other thing is he got the takedowns, he got the mount, he got multiple takedowns. It just took him a little while because when you look at Rugrug, he's an insanely strong guy. He's kind of throwing him around. And we saw Bucésa almost sweep him a few times. We saw him get to some leg lock positions. We saw him have some interesting angles. But again, when you're dealing with a guy that physically strong, one mistake, if he's standing on top of you holding the ankle and he punches you in the head and you're just looking up at the stars, for the next 5 minutes. So I think that against Budai, the one real criticism I have of his game is that he's virtually harmless. He has one submission finish against 2-5 Josh Parisian. He's gotten a laundry list of wins over, UFC part-timers and guys that have negative records in the promotion and guys that are here for a cup of coffee and not going to be here much longer. And went to a split decision with 45-year-old Andrei Arlovsky like 2 fights ago. So when you just look at like the trajectory of Budai's career, he's a virtually harmless heavyweight. And he has gotten in marginally better shape, I believe, over the course of his career. But that Gaziev performance was like, frankly, just unacceptably bad. He showed no discernible MMA skills. And after a certain, maybe like 3.5 minutes, like not much of a desire to be in there. And Gaziev is another athlete. So I just think Bucésa, much better athlete. I think he's probably going to get the top position in this fight. But also, like, if he was to just pressure Martin Budai, like, hard, make Martin Budai make a mistake, I think he could catch him in an opportunistic sub. I think he could also just, like, beat him down, kind of like make him tired and beat him up. So for me, I feel like Bucésa is the side here. Like, obviously, the money line price is kind of sickening. So for me, it would be some kind of violence. And like you mentioned, the KO. I don't have the greatest prop prices available to me, but I'll definitely be looking around and see if I can get something to pique my interest. I'd like plus 750. I think that'd be a good entry point. Definitely. But also, you have to just think this is a heavyweight fight, and like if this guy wasn't known for being a jiu-jitsu guy who's just like guy off the street, like throwing right hands at your head, like, he can't knock somebody out. Like, I don't know. I feel like he can.
Exactly. And like when you look at it too, like you just mentioned the Rugrug fight. If Rugrug fought Budai, how would you line that fight?
I think Rugrug would smash him into a million pieces. That's what I tweeted earlier.
Yeah, I was gonna say minus 600,
like
right?
minus 400, I would say.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I think Rugrug is still like a flawed fighter, like kind of makes some mistakes, but he hits harder. I think he's the better wrestler of the two.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Does he have Walker-like heel hooks? I think Walker has Walker-like heel hooks in this division. I think at a lot of weight classes, like especially that last one against Kennedy, he definitely put some real torquing pressure on it, but that was not a very sophisticated entry. So he kind of just rolled ass over tea kettle into a leg lock, and I don't think that would work at many weight classes, but I have to salute him for it.
No, definitely not.
So shout out to the chat, guys. We can move on to this next fight here where there's a old parochial in betting. You don't want to fade shit with shit. And I just don't think either one of these guys is very good. But frankly, like there's levels to being bad. And I think like Muhammad Yahya is, he doesn't get to compete because the Tafa brothers and company are all at 205 pounds and above. But Muhammad Yahya is certainly on a short list of the worst to ever do it. Got to be up there. I think he's put up like 30 total fantasy points or something across 2 fights. Like just he's a non-entity in the octagon. He's just standing out there getting hit, getting struck in his very lackluster stance. And then you look at, his grappling, it doesn't look very good. I watched him regionally get submitted by like, again, just like guys, guys from the regional, guys that never fought again, guys that are just hangers on. And I don't think that Nguyen is like elite at anything, but he throws a lot of strikes. He can hit pretty hard. Yeah, I think Jarno Aarons would put this guy in the hospital in the first round. So, like, I think that overall, if Nguyen loses this fight, like, he's probably just pack it up, call it a career.
I agree with you. And I mean, I think that was kind of my angle too, is, we're watching this guy Yahya, who's fought at, I think, all the way up to 170 at one point. And then he was at lightweight. He fights Trevor Peek, goes the distance. Now we're finding him is at featherweight here. So coming down all these weight classes, Nguyen's got power, Nguyen's got volume. He's got all these things, and he's got a good process. Yahya has no process. So to me, the Stephen win by KO round 2, round 3, those are sitting at plus 900, plus 1200. I'm happy to maybe take a sprinkle at one of those, but outside of that, I don't really want to touch the fight, to be honest with you, because like you said, you don't want to fade shit with shit. So that's my take on it.
The one thing I will note that I thought was interesting, I basically go on Patreon and just write down like a list of all the props and stuff that stand out to me on any given fight. And like for the Bucésa fight, there really wasn't much to say. Like I don't really like anything on the Budai side. I won't be betting it. If you are, God bless you. I wish you the best of luck. It's just not going to be for me. But on this fight, the things that like really jumped out at me were the under 2.5 at minus 118, the fight not to go the distance, minus 160. I was like, did anybody watch these guys' last couple fights? Like, Nguyen and Aaron's going the distance is almost a minor miracle. He got hurt so bad in that fight. And then Yahya, like, again, that fight with Trevor Peek going the distance is like a testament to how low their skill levels were. But Trevor Peek was dominating him on the mat, and none of that is for me a bullish signal. So I just think that Nguyen, like, what do we know about him? He throws a shit ton of volume when he's having success, like multiple fights with 100+ significant strikes. And I just think on the other side, Yahya has a standing punching bag. So like that seems like a really bad recipe for him unless he gets some grappling going. So I don't foresee that, but like that's the only way I could see him like having some success, or, maybe he clips him with one punch, like I do think Nguyen kind of has a little bit of a sus chin. He cuts a decent bit of weight, 5'11", 73-inch reach. He kind of has a musculature to him, but I also think he's a better conditioned athlete. I don't think there's anything really redeemable about Yahya's game until proven otherwise.
No, I like that underlook. I like it. I agree.
My man. And then win by KO is only like plus 210, really shitty number. But like, if you just ask me what happens in this fight, like I think if Nguyen doesn't knock him out again, he's got to consider some other options.
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying 2-3 at plus 900, plus 1200. Those are pretty good spots. You want to sprinkle it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Next up, my man, we got a light heavyweight fight. And oh boy, I thought Billy Alakana had a chance to come in and shock the world, I will say, when he was fighting Bogdan Guskov. And I had been riding the Bogdan Guskov wave, up until that point. But then I was like, man, he's minus 300. This kid on short notice. He's got wins over Sullivan Cauley, Brian Battle on the amateur circuit. Like, this kid might be something. And short notice fights, I don't want to overvalue one performance. I don't want to like throw away somebody's career because they had a shitty fight, but
sure, that
was a really bad look. I did think, the way he kind of just crumbled in that fight. But I also think, having rewatched it, it's not as bad as I thought. Like, I thought it was worse, and then I rewatched it, and Bogdan was like tuning him up to the head, tuning him up to the body. He was hurting him a bunch before he went down, and I think he was hurt by a body shot and like could not get back up to his feet. And that's why he was like not like asking the ref like get me out of here, but then as soon as he was in the choke, he was like, I can't do nothing, man, and just tapped. I think he was kind of like debilitated by probably a liver shot. But with that being said, still a bad look, right? Not a great start to your UFC career. I think Aslan has a chance to come out here and just put this guy out. We know how he fights, right? Comes out uber aggressive. If he backs up to the cage, he's going to throw heavies. The crowd's going to be, eating out of his hand. He's the shit over there. They like this guy. And when I had put together dark horses for the division, I did list Aslan. He went out there and obviously looked like a complete clown in his last fight. And the grappling was the part of his game that really needed to be tested. And I said Kutalaba is going to bring his wrestling shoes. Yeah, he did. And just easily took him down, took him to the ground, beat him up down there and finished him. So I do think Aslan's a liability on the mat. And when you look at Alakana, the one thing he did really nicely against Bogdan Guskov is take him down seamlessly, take his back easily, and hold his back for about 4 minutes of control. So you look at, like, is there a path for Alakana to win this fight? Like, I think there's 2 clear paths for Alakana to win this fight. Number 1, get the fight to the ground early and submit the guy. Number 2, get the guy late and show off better cardio than you did in your last fight. When you look at who Alakana trains with, like, he trains with Ankalaev. He trains with Volkov. He trains with real fighters at a high level, UFC guys. And again, I don't want to read too much into that. He's like fighting a guy who's got, 16 pro fights, a guy who's been out there more, a guy who's got the UFC experience. But ultimately, it's like Alakana might be on a short leash fighting for his job because he looked so shitty in that first fight. And I do think he looks like he's in better shape. I think he looks like I want to wait for the weigh-in and kind of see how these two guys size up to each other. Alakana used to compete at the middleweight division. He now competes at 205. But the guy's got pretty dangerous head kicks. He's had fights where he pushed hard in the second and third round when he needed to win decisions. And Ibo Aslan's like a known gasser. His cardio's a liability, his grappling's a liability, and his striking is mostly just like come forward, swing aggressive hooks with big elbows up. And like, I think he could knock out Alakana like that, I mentioned. But I also think he could look kind of foolish in this fight and get taken down and kind of get outschooled by somebody who throws kicks. So for me, it's a dogger pass situation. I'm not a big Aslan guy, but I will also say one of the dumbest and worst bets of my life was Surcaria by sub against Aslan when he just stood there against the fence, twice in a row. So shout out to that guy. Complete fraud in my humble opinion, unless proven otherwise. But I think Alakana showed in that last fight. At least he had some competent UFC level skills. Took the guy down, held his back for 4 minutes. In my opinion, he suffered an adrenaline dump. He had literally nothing left to give after 4.5 minutes. And, I think that was the result. But in this fight, he's got a lot to fight for. Please go ahead.
And that was on short notice too, right? So that was on short notice, as we talked about. And that's the thing. You just mentioned the Surcaria fight. That's where Ibo just beat up a punching bag at that rate. Then you look at the fight. I think it was before that was when he fought the Pleasure Man in Atlantic City. That fight, he got dragged into deep water. And I kind of think he got lucky towards the end of that fight. And this guy, Alakana, I'm with you. I think it's a dog shot here. Key was making fun of me calling it a donation, but I just don't see it, especially if you wait. Because like most of Ibo's upside is going to be in round one. If you wait till after round one and see what the live line is, you could get an even better price on Alakana. And now you've already weathered the storm. So you'll see what you get. You see what you're looking like. It's a nice way to stop and not bet it or get in at maybe plus 300, plus 400, depending on how it looks. And like you said, I think this fight he's coming in with a better camp under him. Like you said, probably fighting for his job. I don't know. I like what I saw. Like you said against Guskov, where if you were to line Guskov versus Ibo, how would you place that? I mean, I think Guskov would walk right through Ibo Aslan. So
I think
Guskov
would run him on the mat.
Yep, exactly. So it's just like I don't know. I kind of think like there's gonna be probably 2 or 3 big favorites. I will call it 2. That are going to be like an upset on this card. And I think it's going to be Alakana is going to be one of the upsets just because I think everyone's counting him out. No one's really talking about him. No one's really everyone's written him off by now. So I don't know. I like that side. I'm deciding whether I'm going to get in early, maybe small, and then later on if it's live. But yeah, I'm with you with dog or pass here. And you also said, and it stuck with me last time you were on the podcast, ABC, always bet cardio, right? And this is what we're talking about right here is a guy in Aslan who doesn't have cardio and a guy in Alakana. Sure, he didn't look great, but like you said, I think it was a liver shot and he left his neck out there to get taken because he just wanted to weigh out without getting too much damage. So I don't know. I'm with you with the dog shot here.
The one thing I'll also mention is like neither one of these guys has like breakout wins as professionals. Like Ibo Aslan, he beat the Pleasure Man, Anton Turkali. He's now 1-1 in that career series. It's like he beat Paulo Hanato Jr., who I thought was a complete fade on Contender Series. So Ibo's had kind of a crafted career. And when they're looking for like guys at the low end of the division, like, Billy Alakana is one of the names that they're calling. No disrespect. But I also just think it's probably a more honest and competitive fight than the line. There's a little bit of that tax on Ibo's got the fun first-round knockouts, and this guy Alakana just looked like a fish in his debut.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Next up, we got Amanda Ribas taking on Tabitha Ricci. Looking back at their records, like I was kind of disgusted. Amanda Ribas has one win in this division in the last few years. I think since 2021, and it was against Luana Pinheiro, who's 3-4 in the promotion. So, like, I'm not really sold on her recent run in this division, right? But then you look, she has wins over Dern, she has wins over Jandaroba. Like, there was a time when she was a very functional strawweight. And it's kind of like on the other side, Tabitha Ricci doesn't have any wins quite on the same level, nothing of the same caliber. But she's also been kind of trending in the right direction and starting to get better wins. It's starting to look a little bit better. The fight against Yan Xiaonan, she just got completely outclassed. There's no two ways about it. Am I convinced that Amanda would do better? I don't know. Like, if she got on top, I think so. I thought Tabitha Ricci had a completely asinine game plan, attempts 2 takedowns in 15 minutes, but you got to get close to attempt takedowns. And in this fight, you have 2 willing grapplers, two women that both pride themselves on their jiu-jitsu, two women that both have some judo ability as well. So that could be an interesting dynamic. Obviously, Ribas going to have a little bit of reach advantage, throws a little bit more kicks. But do I see like a massive on-paper advantage? Like, not really. Like, it just feels to me like a fight that's probably going to play out as a close decision more often than not. I haven't seen Amanda Ribas recently asserting herself much in this division. And when she did, again, it was against Luana Pinheiro, a very known gasser. And on the other side, you have a Tabitha Ricci who, she got finished by Manon Ferro. I think we could all kind of forgive that up a weight class. And she hasn't been doing the, 115, 125, 115, 125 going back and forth, which I think is a huge mistake for Amanda Ribas. But she's a tweener. She kind of stuck between these two weight classes. And Tabitha Ricci, decidedly a strawweight. Maybe physicality is the one thing you want to give to Amanda here. But I just have a feeling like this fight could play out really close. So for me, it again feels like a dog or pass situation. I really love Amanda, but I think she's a little bit less reliable in terms of her chin. She's been submitted before, as well. Like, just got submitted in her last fight. I'm not saying Ricci's on a Mackenzie Dern level, but frankly, Amanda Ribas 30-27 Mackenzie Dern in 2019, and then she's getting submitted by her within 3 rounds in this year. So again, is that a regression? Is that Mackenzie Dern making the improvements? I think that there's some questions to be had there. And for me, I feel like this is, again, split decision territory, probably a little bit subjective. Maybe whoever's dominating the takedowns, it's very hard to out-wrestle Amanda Ribas. I'll note that. But if it just stays a boxing match, primarily for 15 minutes, for me, it's going to be a super close fight. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is going to be the first spot where I think we're going to have to just disagree. And here's the reason why. I think that Amanda Ribas is just Tabitha Ricci 2.0, where, she's got good judo, she's got decent jiu-jitsu, she's got better striking than Tabitha Ricci. And the one thing I don't like about Ricci is ever since she started dating Callum Walsh, she's abandoned what got her here, right? So if you think about like her takedowns and her judo and her physicality, she used to depend on that and use that to beat girls like Jillian Robertson, like Jessica Penne, Polyana Viana. We're talking multiple takedowns a fight. Last 3 fights, a lot less takedowns, a lot more time on the feet. You kind of look at it, and I've been on Ricci. I've been on Ricci against Angela Hill. What should I have won that fight? Most would say no. I was on Ricci against Tisha Torres or Pennington now. Should I have won that fight? Most would say no. So Tabitha just punch it, and like this guy had a good point about punching the air. You watch her tape, a lot of her punches don't land. She's just throwing volume, making noises, and people think she's winning. Ribas here, I think if Tabitha Ricci overextends or goes to start the grappling, I think Ribas could have success like judo tossing her and stuff like that. Granted, we're looking at Ribas. She's 31 years old. She's still in the prime of her career. I think that is the line. It says says 145. I think she's closer to minus 200 now. 145, fair line. Minus 200, I wouldn't touch it. But Ribas by decision is minus 105, I think. That's the way I would play it because I don't see a finish coming from either girl. And I think, like you said, it's going to be a 29-28 fight. And that's even in the sense that UFC's pushing Ricci. That's who they want to win this fight. And so it'll be close whether it really is or not, just based off, Ricci's track record. But I got to give it to Ribas here. I think she's just going to be the bigger woman. I think she's going to be a little bit stronger, a little bit more physical, and just have the better volume on the feet.
Yeah, I'm looking for the split decision prop because I didn't check what the actual price was before. It's disgustingly low. So unfortunate. It's like plus 475, plus 575. Like really,
that the story right there.
Yep. And also I think Ricci plus 3.5 is like minus 195 or something. So
yeah, it's minus 200. I checked it.
Price prohibitive.
I was looking at that for spread of the week, and I couldn't because I've been looking for one all week, and I was thinking, oh, maybe Ricci, I'd be close, but minus 200. So it's like they know what's going on there too. Tough.
Hopefully we can find one. Yeah. Next up, man, we got Damone Blackshear taking on Davey Grant, and we'll have you start us off. Peg, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, so this one's definitely interesting, right? Because we're looking at a guy in Davy Grant who's come in here and plus 250 is crazy for a split. But Davy Grant's a guy, he's been a company man. He's 40 years old now. He had that serious neck injury, right? He had the neck surgery done. He's one of those guys that can swing hard. He's a little crafty on the ground with that inverse triangle he got, a few years back. Now he's coming up against a guy, an elite grappler in Damon Blackshear. He's one of those guys that gets you down. He's a blanket. You're not getting up. You're down for the round. I just think at this point, it's kind of just going to be a passing of the garb here. And I think we're just going to see – it's hard to bet or trust Damon Blackshear at -3. I think he's -350 now, especially with his last performance against Ateli Hang or something like Alichi Lang, something like that, where I was on him there, and it was a way closer than it had to be. He didn't grapple at all. He tried to stay and strike. And if he does that with Davy Grant's chances on the feet are that he swings heavy. He shoots punches straight and they come down and he can knock someone out. So I don't know. I think if Blackshear grapples here, I think he'll find the sub at some point. I think it's a levels game there. And that's a nice way to turn, a -350 favorite to a +200 with sub prop.
Yeah, I agree that if you're on the Blackshear side, that's the way that he's probably going to cover this price, is if he takes down Davy Grant, gets a submission. Kind of like Tabitha Ricci, right? A little bit less grappling than you expect from Damon Blackshear's last few fights. A little bit less pushing the issue with the wrestling, especially. And he was kind of getting mugged by Cody Gibson in that fight. I bet Cody like +350 for a tiny bet, and he was coming out there whooping his ass. I was like, yo, no way! And then he gassed out so fast and lost. But dude, he was coming out there and like kind of whooping on him, right? And when you look. The one thing that I do not like about Damon Blackshear comes back to the same thing that you just mentioned before, which is the ABCs. They always bet on cardio. Shout out to our guy, John Anik, whom I originally heard the phrase from. But when you look at, Damon Blackshear, if you had to criticize, like, number one, you watch the guy goes to decision, tends to struggle in those fights. He won his last one, so hats off to him there, making some improvements. But a guy who's definitely struggled over the course of his career in fights that went the distance, mostly against high-quality competition, certainly at the UFC level. But also, he banked 2 rounds against Yusuf Zalal when Zalal cut all the way down to 135. And then in round 3, he allowed Yusuf to land like 60-plus significant strikes. He was gassed out. He was getting beat up. It was 10-8 round. It was lucky that it wasn't stopped at certain points. And again, he did a good job not to get stopped there. But then you look at the Montel Quick Jackson fight, and Montel Jackson's been on an absolute tear. You can take nothing away from losing that fight, but it's the first time in his career he gets starched, knocked out flat cold on the chin, right? So that can sometimes change how people approach their fights, how people are, out there preparing. And I think he went to Thailand and kind of put in some work in the striking, tried to improve in that phase. And sometimes guys start to, think like, hey, I'm Muay Thai this guy. And, that's the kind of thing that can get you slept against Davy Grant. No doubt about it. When you look at Davy, like he's kind of one of these tricky guys, the Asuncao fight, you'd think like, what are the problems for a guy like 39-year-old Davy Grant? The grappling's not going to be there. The cardio is going to slow down. He's getting third round inverted triangles, choking guys fully unconscious to sleep. Like, all right, like the guy's an anomaly. You got to give him that. And I also think, again, pending weigh-ins, right? I'm going to watch the weigh-ins. Hopefully we get some live footage or whatever of the weigh-ins. Normally you see Davy Grant come in with that pronounced HGH gut. And I love to see that from Davy, right? Because that's always a good sign for how he's going to perform. He's going to still look like he's on the right side of 39, when he shows up with the bubble gut. But if he doesn't, if it's deflated, then you maybe say to yourself, maybe he's ready to be done with this fighting grind. Yeah. But ultimately, Davy loves a fight, as much as anybody. And he's also a guy that's pretty much bout it for 15 minutes if you don't put him out of there, right? Like, he got his ass whooped pillar to post by Chito Vera when they rematched. And, he just stood in there taking shots. He's gotten dropped before, kept fighting. He's gotten hurt before, kept fighting. Somebody try and strangle him, he gets out, he keep fighting. So it's the kind of thing where you can kill Davy Grant, no doubt about it. Like, he's got enough flaws, he makes enough mistakes. He's been clipped on the chin before. Fighting a guy 9 years his junior here in Damon Blackshear. But I also always talk about skills winning fights. And if this fight goes a full 15 minutes, like, I think that the guy who's probably done more damage is Davy Grant. And I think that it could be a split decision territory. Frankly, Davy's gotten some tough runouts on split decisions. You look at the Daniel Marcos fight. A lot of people thought he won that fight. Didn't get the nod, right? Undefeated kid. Then you look at the fight with Adrian Yanez. Yanez did a lot of punching that kind of like bounced off the shoulders, off the hands of Davy Grant. And one judge gave it to him, 2 judges didn't. It's like
Yep.
Davy's got that kind of style that he can make it close, especially if you go tit for tat on the feet. So it feels like a big price for me on the money line here for a guy like Davy, who, fights hard for your dollar, has made some improvements, I would say, in the grappling. Certainly his biggest liability here, right? That's the biggest flaw in his game. But then you look at as well, like if this is just a pure striking match, I think at worst we're looking at a close fight. If not, Davy Grant maybe lands a couple shots with more pop. Maybe he takes over in 2 and 3 if this guy starts to get tired on him. So you could make an argument Davy Grant's on like a nice little streak, right? Winning a lot of fights and doing really well in this later portion of his career. And not a lot of easy fights in the mix there either. Certainly earlier in his career, the Martin days and these guys, he was putting on some highlight reels. But even in some of these other fights against the more named guys, he's going out there and giving an honest effort for the full 15. So,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, man. That's basically, I'm with you that if you're on the Blackshear side, sub for Blackshear. I think that's how he looks, justifies the price. If you're kind of with me, like maybe can't get it going, or if he doesn't get it going early enough, then Davy could take over. And that's maybe some Davy Grant live. Maybe
Davy Grant on the spread is
money
plus
line.
125 on the spread if you want to take him on the spread.
And I don't mind that either. The one danger being is if he gets submitted, right? So
yeah.
I think if it goes to the scorecards, that's probably going to hit. But
yeah.
It's certainly an interesting look, man. And also just like in terms of the violence quotient, I think Blackshear could sub. I think Davy Grant could knock him out. And when you've got a 39-year-old, with all due respect, you could get knocked out too, right? So I don't think Blackshear is like, Johnny Karate, but I do think he's got an ability to put people down with hands time to time. I think he did it to Luan Lacerda. And at 39, your chin could just give out. So something to think about. But shout out to the chat. We got a lot of sharp people rocking with us. My guy Locker Room in the chat says he's driving home, listening to his guy Liam talk about the most violent sport in the world. Appreciate you, my brother, and wish you nothing but the best of luck on this card. Speaking of the finicky judges and the finicky, officiating that we get sometimes in this part of the world, I was on my boy Carlos Leal plus 190, and it didn't swing our way, right? Our guy Renat Fakhretdinov, he gets away with him. I had what's his name, Easy Dose plus 3XX, got away with him. It's like this guy just keeps getting away with him. So hats off to him, But when you look at Muslim Salikhov, and he's been fighting these younger guys, he hasn't been getting away with him, man. He's been getting stone cold knocked out pretty bad, right? Randy Brown put him in the box. I had a 10-unit max bet on our guy, Li Jing Liang, the Leech. I've kind of retired the 10-unit bets. Again, when I feel it in my stones, I'll pull it out when it needs to be. But I think that the lines have gotten a little bit sharper in MMA, frankly, over time as I've been doing this. But I say that to say the Leech was plus 150. He had the anthropomorphic advantages, younger guy, bigger guy, hits like a truck. In a lot of ways, he's like Carlos Leal. And he was plus 150, and I was just like, give me that. Thank you. I will find out. And Leech had a tough first round, came out and absolutely killed him. I think he did it in Long Island. I was on my way to a friend's house, so I get a call. Bro, he just killed him. I wasn't even watching. I was like, let's go. It was unreal. Awesome. So when you just look back, like fading Salikhov, something I'm not opposed to. And I would just pivot in this fight to say, I like Carlos Leal, but if you've ever watched the guy fight, self-preservation is not top of mind for him. He's a risk taker. He's a ballsy son of a bitch. And he's never been knocked out. But like you take one, or at least off the top of my head, right? I think he's been submitted before. I don't think he's ever been knocked out. But you take a spinning kick to the face, from the king of Kung Fu, you might be doing the salsa. So the one thing I would say is I kind of like the under 1.5. I kind of like the under 2.5. I think that Carlos Leal is going to smash him to bits. But I also think how does Muslim win this fight? Take 3 steps to the right, do a big spin, kick him in the head, and win the fight. I don't really know how he's going to win the fight otherwise, unless he makes it like both of us stand a distance and fade to each other for the full 15. Comes forward, super aggressive. I think Carlos Leal is going to knock him out. But like I said, I prefer pivoting to the under just to give myself that additional win equity.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the comparison you made, because I was just on a podcast before this and I made the exact same comparison. Carlos Leal and the Leech, very similar styles, where it's the volume, the heavy hitting, the physical, the big guys. And I think that comes, and we're seeing now Muslim Salikhov at 41 years old dealing with that again. Something tells me Leal remembers his last time in Abu Dhabi, and he's not leaving this one up to the judges. That's what that tells me. And I think he's going to pressure. Muslim needs that space to get his kicks off, to get things going. He needs space for that. And Carlos Leal is, like you said, he's a risk taker, and he's not giving you space. He's going to push you up against the cage. He's going to start laying into you, things like that. Javi gave out the under 1.5 for our BTL parlay. I parlayed the under 2.5 alternate at minus, I think it's like minus 400, just because fight doesn't go is minus 675. So you got 2 minutes for 275 cents. I'll take it. So, yeah, but I'm also on Leo KO. I think it's like minus 110, just because I think this is the way to do it. I don't think I see him subbing him. I think it's just going to be a vicious knockout, unfortunately, for Salikhov. And it almost seems cruel that they're doing it to him here like this. So I'll end it with that.
Well, they did send him, he's got all the Wusha Sanda like titles and stuff. They sent him back to be the king of Kung Fu over in Asia. And now they're sending him, to Carlos Leal as a, hey, sorry that we robbed you so bad that one time.
Yep, we're going to make it up to you. Yeah.
The one other thing I wanted to note is I believe, and again, this is all from the top of my head. So guys, if I'm off by 2 or something, I'm not off by 10, right? If I'm off by a small amount, I apologize. But I believe that there was 17 or 19 takedown attempts from Rinat Fakhretdinov, and Carlos Leal D'd up like 15 or 17, like whichever number it is, he D'd up all but 2 of them, right? The guy showed very good takedown defense. Rinat Fakhretdinov's a way better wrestler than Muslim Salikhov.
Yeah.
I don't think Muslim Salikhov's getting takedowns here. Like maybe one, like catch him by surprise. Like I don't think he's getting control time here. Like I think he's going to be in a really tough fight where he's facing a lot of pressure early on. And, when you start to get up there in age, I don't think at the best of times Muslim Salikhov has great cardio. I think that his cardio has gotten a little bit worse as he's gotten older. But we also have to take note of like Randy Brown, I think it was like 13 strikes and he put him down. And Randy Brown's not always like one-shot sniper, but he's fast and he's got a good delivery system. And Carlos Leal, I don't think he's like as sniper-like as Randy Brown, but his ability to put shots together, to throw multiple in combination, if you get a guy hurt, turn up the volume and the pace on him. I think all those things point to Leal having the right finishing instincts. And also like this guy to the ground, I don't really know that he's not going to be able to do that either, just based on physicality. So it's an interesting fight. Also, Muslim's not the best grappler. Just he's all right. He's defensively sound enough, but I think that if pressed, like he's just not very deep in his defense there. He's more of a striker.
I don't see this going to the ground at all, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be quick.
I don't, but I think Leal has a handful of subs on his record, so that's why I always just look and see. Yeah, but I do think he's a guy that preferences the knockout. That's what I always talk about. What do they want to do? Leal wants to knock people out. He's Robbie Lawler in that sense. I'm trying to knock people out. Great callback. But in any case, my brother, this is the talk of the town this week. Bryce Mitchell, Said Nurmagomedov, a grappler's delight. Shout out to the jiu-jitsu shirt. It also fits for this one. You got the Ninja Choke King, Said Nurmagomedov, against Bryce Mitchell. Christ is King, Bryce Mitchell. Going to come out there with the Bible and, sing Assalamu Alaikum and all the other things he's been doing this week. God bless him for it. He's been out there doing seminars and stuff in the UAE. So Bryce Mitchell's on the ground reporter, Bryce Mitchell, I know. Doing the thing. And I did go back and watch a bunch of tape to try and get a better idea for this fight. I didn't come away with a super clear idea of exactly what's going to happen here. The one thing I will note is that people have said Bryce Mitchell sticks his head in the hole. They're correct about that. He definitely takes some risks there. And I think that if he's not very diligent about correcting that in camp, that could be a big problem for him. Just the way he pursues takedowns, he kind of goes for that single leg, pulls it up and kind of dips his head, tries to sit people down and run the corner. And I think that people may forget, because of how the fight ended, that Gene Silva almost submitted him in the first round with a guillotine.
Same way,
Well, see, this is the thing. He ends up finishing him when he comes up sideways. He catches right here, pulls across and goes ninja choke and gets the finish, because Bryce did a really good job, basically losing his shorts. That's the new MMA meta. We'll talk about another guy who had to lose his shorts to survive a choke, but it's the new meta to survive the guillotine is these guys are willing to pants themselves in the octagon to try and just shimmy their way out, because normally your grip around their waist is a little bit tighter, and they're literally using like a a sheath to pull themselves out. It's crazy, but it's effective. People are doing it, and Bryce did that in the first round to the guillotine. So when you go for that guillotine, you need to have that tight guard pull if you're looking for a standard, more traditional guillotine finish. And he had it, but he couldn't quite get the angle that he wanted. And Bryce did all the right things, trying to posture up, trying to get a TP going, trying to go sideways to get on a hip and push away at the hips. And he forced him to make the adjustment, right? Gene Silva had phenomenal takedown defense. He's a brutal puncher. He punishes you in the clinch. He did show some of the same things that Saeed does, though, with those spinning kicks to the head that were pretty close. Some of the spinning kicks to the body. And I think that when I look at this fight, I basically see a tale of two fights. I think early on in the fight, Bryce doesn't always push the wrestling and the grappling off the whistle. He's kind of a guy that likes to get into it a little bit, start moving around, throw some side kicks, maybe paw it with the jab a little bit. And you're kind of taking some risks out there with Saeed when you're doing that, because he plays for keeps on the feet, dude. Cody Stamann never even got off the starting blocks. I bet Cody Stamann by decision there, brother. The fight was over before the fight ever started. He's getting hit with spin kick to the face, to the side. I'm like, holy shit. And you look at where Saeed Nurmagomedov, what I was really impressed by. I called the fight, but I was still impressed by how it played out, because Saeed Yakub Kakramanov pushes an insane amount of pressure in the wrestling and the grappling. He basically fights at a suicide pace. He's like, we're both getting tired, and then we'll see who wants it badder. Yeah. And I don't even think it was a case of who wanted it badder in the end, because they were both fully exhausted as far as I'm concerned. Saeed, they were both fully exhausted. But when you look at what happened there, he made one mistake, right? He was fighting so beautifully. He was fighting the perfect fight. Dipped his head down one too many times, gave him one too many opportunities, put it in there. And dude, this is why I said the difference between that guillotine, where you can fucking pull out your shorts and all this stuff, you get caught in a fully cinched ninja choke. If the guy doesn't get caught by surprise, the one last resort you have is to hit a hard spin, because if you hard spin, they can't really keep the grip perfect. But dude, if they roll with you, it's over. And bro, we saw Cody Durden roll with Matt Schnell. Finished it. We saw, what's his name? Gene Silva roll with Bryce. Finished it. If you roll with it, bro, you end up with a very tight,
even tighter
head over neck. It's a brutal finishing mechanic. And so I do think there are visions dancing in my head of Saeed Nurmagomedov hitting that choke here, which is why I'm not laying the chalk with Bryce. But on the other side, that's why I say a tale of two fights. And that's the first 7.5 minutes. I think at any point he could just get instantly snatched and the fight's over. But Bryce does have a beautiful takedown series that he would be very smart to use in this fight, which is his body lock to the full mount. He has an excellent body lock series where he starts locking here, gets somebody standing tall, and you got a guy like Saeed. Unfortunately, this is the one downside of dropping down, right? When you drop down a weight class, now Bryce is actually taller. So you got to kind of be you got to get low and then get tall on them, in order to get them over with a body lock. But you can body lock, bear hug somebody fully into the mount. And we've seen Bryce do that multiple times before. He did it to Dan Ige in the first round. He did it to Dan Ige again in the second round. And those are fight-altering positions, right? Because Bryce was getting his ass whooped in the first round. His eye was fucked up. And this is why I think that Bryce isn't a bitch. I don't like Bryce personally. Everybody's mileage may vary, but I'm not a Bryce guy. I think he's had bright moments. I think there's times he's fun on the mic. I think the guy is fully stupid. Again, he's a cage fighter. God bless him. Well, wish him the best. Exactly. I'm not saying I'm a genius. I'm just saying we disagree about some fundamentals, and I wish him the best. But you look at what Bryce brings to the table. He fights hard. He doesn't quit on himself. He got owned by Ilya. He got knocked literally dead by Josh Emmett. And then he got kind of punked out by Gene Silva. But in the Gene Silva fight, there were opportunities to give up. If he was looking to give up much earlier, right? Or even to just go down to strikes and cover up. And, he kind of took his shellacking like a man in that fight. Against Dan Ige, his eye was swollen up in the first round. The doctor came in, I believe it was in round 2, to try and assess whether he could even continue fighting. And while he's got a swollen ass orbital, he's going, my guy Cam says fundamentals like seatbelts in the Holocaust. Correct. But then when you look, the guy's got a freaking swollen eye and he's basically hanging on by a thread, and he gets the takedown in round 3 to hold on when he needs it. And did he get in bad positions late in that fight? Yes. but he did what he needed to do to win. And for me, you kind of see like Bryce Mitchell can dig deep. He can go grit it out in 2 and 3. That's when Said Nurmagomedov loses, man. He gets outworked. He's not outskilled by these guys. He just gets out hustled, outworked, kind of gets tired. To be perfectly honest, starts feeling sorry for himself, right? And that's what happens. So a very talented guy can look mediocre. The longer you extend him, the more you make him wrestle and grapple. If Said Yakub doesn't put his head in that choke, is there a pretty decent chance he just, dumpsters him in the 3rd round? Like, yeah. So I kind of look at it like it's a tale of 2 fights for me. Early on, I like Said. I think he's going to have some success, both in the striking, the getting back up to the feet. I think Bryce is good on the ground, but I also think a lot of what he likes to do is stuff that builds as people get tired, as they start making more mistakes. He's opportunistic with his stuff. Even Ige got a couple of top positions on him, and he had to scramble, get back up, take his back. So I think Said early is going to look very strong, but the longer the fight goes, I think the more chances for Bryce Mitchell. So I'd probably look to bet Bryce live if he's plus money after 1 round type of thing. That would be, maybe a way I'd consider it. And then there's props I'd consider on both guys really, but more so on the specific round props. Like just like I mentioned, first 2, kind of looking at Said, maybe second half of the fight, and especially in round 3, I think that's the only real finishing equity I see opening up for Bryce Mitchell is if this guy gets really tired. Said is defensively responsible, but if you're tired and somebody gets the full mount with some time left in the round, bro, it could be disaster for you. Definitely. And my guy, High Mark Water, asked fight ends by sub. I do think that there's some play to that. The one downside I would say is that Said, I think, can knock him out on the feet. I don't think Bryce is going to win by knockout. I think he'd be more likely to win by decision than anything. But I also think his path is probably a late sub, and I think Said's path is probably an earlier sub or to clip him on the chin. Definitely.
And, I'm going to be quick just because you broke it down perfectly to a T when you talked about tall man wrestling. I know you wrestle, you're a wrestling coach. You talk tall man wrestling, right? Bryce now has the opportunity of a lifetime to do it, going down a weight class, being the bigger guy and being the more physical guy here. I think he's going to go for more of those body lock takedowns than he is that single leg, just because he knows how dangerous that choke is and how.
Did you blip out on us for a sec, Peg, or is it me? Somebody can let us know in the chat. I think my guy Peg just blipped for a second. I'm going to bounce you for 1 sec, Peg, and I'll bring you right back in as soon as I see you moving in that box down below. So we definitely got to hear from Peg on this fight. My guy Cam in the chat said he gone. So as soon as he comes back, guys, we will have Peg back on the show to give his take on this fight. When I look at, some interesting notes that we had from the chat, our guy Cam in the chat says Bryce is a favorite with 35% of the public money on him on DK. That does seem like an indicator that there's sharp money on the Bryce Mitchell side. That does not surprise me. I also think plus money with a name like Nurmagomedov, that's going to attract some public betting attention, no doubt about it. So I think that this should be an interesting scrap. And it's one where, again, I looked at the props on this fight. I thought that Nurmagomedov early round props, the sub prop, the split decision prop were the kind of things that I would be looking at on the Nurmagomedov side. And then for Bryce Mitchell, round 2, round 3, split decision type of prop. Again, that seems viable enough. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how this one shakes out. But until we get Peg back, we'll move on to this next fight here, guys. We got to meet. Oh, there he is. Perfect timing. Peg back in the building. What do you think about this fight, my brother? Don't worry about it at all.
Usually I leave key for the technical difficulties. But, like I said before, I think before I cut out, you broke it down perfectly. I think Bryce is going to use that body lock and that tall man grappling where, he's the taller guy, going to be more physical. One thing he's losing to, like you said, is physicality. Ilia Topuria, Josh Emmett. All these guys are bigger and stronger than him. So that's where he's having these issues where he's going for takedowns and they're just hucking him to the side and they're saying, forget about that. So I don't think Said's going to do that. Like you said, that ninja choke is there. I think Bryce is hopefully aware of that. But like you said, also, he's not the smartest tool in the shed. So maybe he doesn't know that choke is still there. So There's a potential chance that he locks it in. I played Bryce Mitchell at -110 or -115 when it was a pick'em, just because I think that as the fight builds, it gets much worse for Syed, especially if he gasses and if Bryce pushes a pace. I was a little worried about the weight cut. Bryce looks great cutting down to 135. I almost think this may have been his weight class the whole time. But yeah, I don't know. I'm taking a chance on Bryce here. Like you said, Syed could have moments early on the feet. People like to, talk shit about Bryce on the feet. You go back and you watch that. You watch the Topuria fight. You watch the Gene Silva fight. He's just such an awkward striker that he has some success with the kicks. He has some success with his jab where he just comes from weird angles. So I think he could have success on the feet as well. I guess from the standpoint of like takedown wise, he's only got to take down Ilia Topuria. I think it's going to probably stay that way for a little bit. But I don't know. I'm okay with an early line at -110. I think he's getting to like -160 now, so I probably would lean off there. But yeah, that's my take on it. It's going to be a good fight. Definitely going to be the fight of the week, I think.
Yeah, and while you were gone, I mentioned it seems like there's a lot of sharp money that came in on the Bryce side because Nurmagomedov, typically a public name, public side, and he's seeing plus money, and that's going to be attractive to public bettors. So yeah. I'm sure they wouldn't be doing that unless they're either getting hit with a lot of action on Bryce or respected action on Bryce, and I think it's probably a combination of both.
Yeah.
All right, man. Next up, we got Nikita, the Miner, Krylov. Weird nickname, Nikita. Let's switch that back if you don't mind. But he used to be Al Capone, better nickname. But in any case, he's taking on Bogdan Guskov. I'm not even going to try that nickname. And Peg, we're going to have you kick us off on this one. How do you feel, brother?
Such a tough fight to decide, man. This is I was staring at this one all week. I was taping it, trying to get to a Krylov side, just because I know if we're watching Volkan Ozdemir get you down, get success, and find a submission, imagine what Krylov could do to you on the mat. And I wanted to get in there, but then you go back and you watch Krylov versus Ozdemir because that's a good measuring stick. You go back and look at his last fight against Reyes, and Nikita on the fence, getting you into the clinch and getting his grappling going is chef's kiss. It's a work of beauty. Getting to that point is some of the most disgusting stuff you see. His head stays on a straight line and it's directly in. He eats punches coming in, but once he gets to his point, he starts and gets to work. Coming off of 3 months off, coming against another power puncher where, Reyes just caught him right off the line 3 months ago, put him out cold pretty bad. We've never seen Krylov really boarded like that. I want to say boarded, but Guskov could do the same thing here. I think the trick here is the unders. Unders I like because you could get a finish by Guskov in the KO. You get Krylov by sub if it hits the mat. I do think that's live there. I parlayed the under 2.5, which is a different one at I think it was -400, just because fight that goes distance is -700. So you're getting $3 right there on an under. So it seems like there's value there. But if you go on FanDuel right now, there's a bet. Krylov by submission, Guskov by KO, -130. Kind of a cheeky way to bet the under where you have Guskov's majority equity, I'm sure, is in the KO. And I think a majority of Krylov's equity is going to be in the submission, especially when you're seeing -700 if fight doesn't go. They're assuming this fight's not going to decision. I think that's the way to bet it, is that -130 on KO by Guskov, sub by Krylov. What do you think?
This is another interesting one, man. I tend to agree with you in terms of like how I generally see the fight. I put down in my notes Guskov KO, Krylov sub, under 1.5, right? So
yep.
we basically see it the same way. I think both guys are capable of early violence. Like, I don't know exactly what version of Nikita Krylov we're getting. Like, I did not think he looked very good against Dom Reyes. The fight didn't go super long. Not a huge sample size there. But I'll just say, man, like, I've always thought that people were a little bit higher on Krylov, particularly in the grappling, than I am. Not because he's not a fine offensive grappler, just because he makes a lot of really boneheaded decisions in his fights overall. And especially, like, the grappling with Johnny Walker is like vomit inducing. Like, it's one of the worst fights you'll ever watch in probably MMA history. My guy Traplord in the chat says Krylov probably going to be winning until he loses. Like, If you go back and watch Guskov fight Alakana, like the path is so clear for Krylov on like how he wins this fight. Like take his back, dominate on the ground. Like Guskov is a work in progress. I believe he's a brown belt. I think he's a Gore MMA guy as well. It trains with some good guys, does some of the right things. But I've said before, like, is Walter Walker going to go win a jiu-jitsu world title or something? Like, fuck no, he's not going to do that. But is he a guy that can go submit like UFC heavyweight? Sure thing. I think both these guys are capable of submitting each other, as stupid as that sounds. And like, I think Krylov is clearly the much superior grappler. The only reason I say that is just because we saw Guskov in his last fight, a willingness, right? I think he even tried to grapple a little bit with Volkan. It didn't work out for him, but like he was willing to mix it up there. I think, when you look at his career leading up, I think he had let me double check because I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe he had some submissions regionally as well. So let me look at my guy, Bogdan Guskov, 16-3 as a professional, according to, or 17-3 as a professional, 3 wins by sub, 14 wins by KO. Every single one of his wins, guys, inside the distance. So I think he's a killer be killed kind of guy. That's why I like the unders. That's why I like violence in principle. The thing about Krylov is he used to have half decent kicks and striking. And like, I feel like his striking has kind of fallen off a cliff. I feel like his durability's fallen off. And I still feel like his grappling is a little bit sus to me. So that for all those reasons, like I will not be laying chalk with Krylov for the foreseeable future. But again, this is the kind of fight where at his best, he should have won. I just don't know that he's there anymore. And he's been, pretty inactive, and Bogdan Guskov has been the opposite of that. He's been in there fighting, active guys and going out there, knocking people out, hurting people on the feet. So I think it's a dogger pass situation. And I think that Krylov sub is like, again, the way he justifies the price. If he goes out there, just takes the guy down, gets to work, hats off to him. But if he messes around on the feet, I think he could get hurt and shit could go sideways for him. So I'm not a Nikita Krylov believer. All right, man. Next up, this is a fun one, dude. We've got Almabayev taking on Jose Ochoa. We may have lost Peg again. It looks like we have frozen. So I'm going to bounce it for 1 second and we will keep it rolling. And as soon as he's back, we will continue with Peg. But for now, guys, we've got Almabayev taking on Jose Ochoa here. Almabayev got, run up and done up by Manel Kape, but he did take that poke to the eye, right? So we know that was not ideal circumstances for our guy. We got Peg back in the building, guys. Let's pull the screen back to the side. Bada bing, bada boom. We're getting into this breakdown, my man, where we've got flyweights squaring off, and Jose Ochoa, he's short on experience coming into this fight. That would be the biggest red flag. You look at, he's a guy that's had a handful of UFC fights. He's a guy that's had less than double-digit professional fights. On the other side, Asu, 21 wins as a professional, right? So he's well over double-digit wins, and then this other guy doesn't have 10 professional fights. That being said, then you watch the tape, right? You kind of watch how these guys fight, and I do think it's a competitive fight. When you look at Asu Almabayev, he's a guy that I think against Matheus Nicolau, he kind of got away with doing fuck all. Very little happened in that fight, and, we talked about it a little bit before, right? I mentioned the new MMA meta is you got to lose your trousers to survive a guillotine choke. And Matheus Nicolau, who I should mention is a black belt, but nearly had him dead to rights on a guillotine, and he had to lose his trousers. And then, of course, nice guy of the week, Matheus Nicolau, lets a winnable fight slip through his fingers and lets the guy pull back up his shorts. Yeah, take your time. Yeah, it's all good. Kind of too sportsmanlike, right? And meanwhile, you look at Ochoa, man, he's mean. Ochoa's a fighter through his core. He's trying to hurt people. He's trying to finish fights. You even look at that submission finish on his resume. I love it. If you've seen it, he gets that Darce choke, man. He starts pressuring in, lifts the guy well off the ground. It was beautiful. So you look at Ochoa, he had a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in 2023. So he definitely got to, make some strides on the ground, and I do worry that if he was to lose this fight, to get exploited in this fight, it would be from getting taken down, getting controlled. I really don't think that Almabayev is super live to submit him here. Unless he gasses out, unless we see, kind of more flaws in the game of Ochoa than what we've seen before. I saw against Lonnie Kavanaugh a guy that could push a good pace. I saw a guy that had some core competencies in the grappling. And, against Cody Durden, I saw the same thing, and I saw a guy that was getting more comfortable out there, getting a little bit meaner, a little bit sharper with his strikes as well. On the Asu side, I thought the Nicolau fight was a red flag. The Cop fight, I give him a break for that, right? Cop is just a difficult style
Cop
matchup.
is
I think
Cop.
he would be tough for Ochoa as well, right? But when you look at those two fights in tandem, and then you look at the guys he's beating, like I'm definitely looking at like a CJ Vergara as enhancement talent. All due respect, just not a guy that they're trying to set up for title fights and big opportunities. They're trying to use him to build other guys, other fighters. And Asu goes out there, doesn't get the finish. Ode Osborne, he's basically been a mark to the submission throughout his career, right? So I thought Asu was going to go out there and submit him. He went out there and submitted him. Hats off to him there. He did the right things, but then you look at the Jose Johnson fight, and Jose Johnson, he's got some bad losses on his record. He's got some good wins, but certainly a mixed bag of a record. And he had some moments, he got out wrestled fundamentally. That was the problem. Tall man defense there. Haunter asked why the line movement has been crazy. It opened a massive underdog for Ochoa. I think that was based on, again, you look at this on paper and you've got a guy with 24 fights against a guy with 9 fights. You got a guy who's got, a 9-0 record to the submission against a guy who, doesn't have a deep lineage on the ground. But he's a shootbox kid. He looks like he comes in great shape for these fights. He's got hatred in his heart when he's fighting, man. He's looking to kill people. I think Aslan Almabayev can't really bust a grape, to tell you the truth. Like, he's got a half-decent spinning kick. His boxing's okay. Fundamentally, I think his striking is pretty harmless, right? That's why I think he likes to make his bones about the grappling, make his bones about getting wrestling control time. And the thing about Ochoa is, I think he has some equity here to win like a split decision, right? Where, again, Davey Grant and Damone Blackshear, we kind of talked about the same dynamic where it's like, yeah, I took you down a couple times, but every time you get back up and punch me 6 times in my face and hit me with 6 elbows and then clear away space and end a couple shots, and you can kind of let a fight slip through your hands like that, even if you get 3-4 takedowns. So for me, that's why Ochoa is now getting some respect when people watch his tape and they see, he's a young kid. He's getting better fight over fight. He's with the right people. He's training with Charles. He's training with these guys. He's going to get better. So I do think there's room for, Ochoa to look like, hey, this is a veteran lesson. He went out there. He just wasn't ready. But I also think if the kid's special, I think Asu Almabayev is there to be picked off by one of these guys. Manel Cap did it. I think Mateus Nicolau is a bag fumbler. He almost did it. He also has a sketchy chin, right? And I think Mateus Nicolau may have won that fight if he didn't get clipped on the chin to start the 3rd round and basically have no chance to come back and win it. I think Ochoa's got a better chin. I think he's a little bit more confident as well. And I just think he's going to push the issue. So the things I'm looking at, Ochoa rounds 2 and 3 a little bit. And, that's probably the way I'll get involved here. I don't know what the scorecards are going to look like. You might be dealing with some scorecards that are all over the place here. But again, I think when you're talking about a split decision type fight, and I think one guy's probably got more upside to land a lot of significant strikes. Aslan Almabayev's put up some real stinkers in the significant strike numbers, relying on that wrestling. And I think that low volume approach, if he's not getting consistent top, time in this fight, I think it's not going to work here. So for me, it's Ochoa as a slight lean, but I haven't parted ways with my dollar. So I do think, at this price, it's a much more competitive line. If it was plus 300, I'd literally just be betting Ochoa and like living with the result, right? But the market corrected this quick, and I think a closely lined fight is fair. Like, would I be? I think Aslan Almabayev has minus 400 upside here, but I also think he has like plus 200 downside. So that's where it's like, for me, there's some unknowns on Ochoa that make it interesting, but Asu's the more proven product. What do you think here?
Yeah, you made that. That's the perfect way to put it. I think both guys have, like you said, minus 200 upside. It all depends on where the fight's going to take place. If it's on the ground and Ochoa lets Asu get his grappling game going, or like we saw against Durden, Ochoa is kind of okay with the jukebox, sit on the ground and play guard. He will get crafty with it. That's not what you want to do against a guy like Almabayev, because Almabayev is relatively safe. He's a position over submission guy. He knows he's not going to finish you. He just wants to stay on top of you. As long as he's on top, he's winning, especially when it's in Abu Dhabi. He's definitely winning there. And the way you got to look at it, for me, I grabbed a piece of Asu at minus 104 just because of the strength of schedule coming from the Cop fight. And it's also, we just haven't seen Ochoa against a chain wrestler. That's the thing. It's like there's a difference between like you know it. There's a difference between grappling. There's a difference between submission grappling. Then there's a difference between chain wrestling. And chain wrestling is, if you can do it, it's some of the hardest shit to beat because they're gonna take you down. If there's something Asu doesn't like, he's gonna say okay. He's gonna take a step back, let you get back to your feet, and he's right back to work again. He's gonna try and take you down again. And it's shown problems for Asu in the past because Asu has shown in round 3 he does slow down. He couldn't slow down if he's really getting the grappling game going. And we haven't seen what Jose Ochoa looks like after being grappled for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm assuming pretty well. He's got that good acai down at the shootbox camp. He's got good guys in there. He's got veteran guys to be watching over him. And I think, like, as a prospect, I walked away from that Lonier Kavanaugh fight being like, I was impressed with Kavanaugh, but I was more impressed with this guy, Jose, stepping in there on 5 days' notice and bringing war to him. So, you know, it's very interesting. It's an interesting dynamic that you see a guy like Asu when the line opened the way it did, where he was minus 300. That's where I think a line gets put when you don't know much about two fighters. You're seeing a flag and a name, and you're just saying, this guy's minus 300. That's not the real story. And that's why the people who got plus 330 on Ochoa, that's free. You may as well just, like you said, take it and run. But right now, I think when it was a very close pick-em where we almost got Asu, some people got Asu at plus 105. That is a little crazy just because of the strength of schedule, the experience where you got 24 fights, and the wrestling upside. I'm a guy, if I see a fight that's striker versus grappler, I always lean with the grappler just because it seems to be more grittier. There's just more upside there, where on the feet, you got to get a little more crafty. But like you said, I totally agree. If it's on the feet for a majority of the fight, Ochoa minus 400. If it's grappling and on the ground, it's going to be Asu minus 300. So that's the way I took it. I'm just going to lean with the grappler here. It's very tough to be confident about this fight and die on that hill. I'll leave it at that.
Fair play, my brother. The one hot take that I will give here is that if Asu gets hurt, I think he will shoot himself into a guillotine or something. That is the one hot take that I will give. I spoke to my guy, Jewish Better, about that a little bit earlier this week. And just watching the way that Asu wrestles, again, he's one of these guys that's willing to try and run the pipe on single legs, and that can work, but it could also put you in those kind of situations. And Nicolas showed he was willing to look for it. I think Ochoa is the same way. And the one thing I feel like I know about this fight is that Asu's going to attempt takedowns. He's going to try and put his head down, get a hold of this guy, get his neck around his waist. And again, it's like, what do you need in this life in order to cash bets? Opportunity. And I think that at least he will put his neck there, right? I thought the same thing about Bryce against Gene Silva. I bet Gene Silva by sub there. And it's like, if you're going to get hurt and you're a grappler, your first instinct is grab a hold of him, shoot right now. And that's when good grapplers can get submitted by guys who are lesser grapplers, right?
Here's the thing, too. What people don't notice, as of right now, while Jose is 24 years old, he's playing at flyweight. I guarantee you by the time he's 28, 29, 30, we're going to see him at bantamweight. He's going to be a lot bigger and a lot stronger and a lot better of a fighter. That's kind of my prediction on it, because 5'7", 125, you can do it when you're 24. You can't do it when you're 28. That's how I'll put it.
Asu's a lifer.
Oh, Asu could probably be an atom weight if he wanted to, right? If there was one for men.
Also, can I just say, what is this nickname matchup? Zulfikar and Calcifer? Completely insane. But
so
I wish them both the best.
Zulfikar is this. Well, I did a dive on this in the last show. So Zulfikar is the sword that Muhammad used in the Quran.
In one of those battles. And Calcifer is a renamed child's character or something. I looked up that one.
I don't know what that is.
And it's not a real thing. It's like a changed name of a real thing. I was like, God bless you. Good luck. It's like a star or something on fire or something.
I can only imagine.
Also, I will just say the hardest edit of the year so far is when Jose Ochoa and Cody Durden slap hands at the face-off, and Cody pulls him in, and then after the fight he knocks him out, and then he pulls him in. Bro. That is literally the hardest edit of the year. So
I saw that.
So shout
awesome.
out to
the kid's gonna be an exciting prospect. It's gonna be fun to watch him grow.
Absolutely, and he's got years. So if he loses here, he could always be rebuilt.
Yep.
But next up, we got two guys in their 30s. Somebody's got to win right now. It's Shara Magomedov. It's Marc-Andre Barriault, MAB, the power bar. I'm fired up, I suppose, to watch this fight. Really don't think it's very high stakes divisionally, but Marc-Andre Barriault coming off a nice knockout win over a guy who doesn't really want to fight anymore. But that being said, the knockout was still devastating. You know, it's still a guy that's never been knocked out before. So you got to give him credit and tip your cap to him, guy who could push a decent pace. But frankly, defense has never been a major concern of Marc-Andre Barriault. And I think that they put this fight together not to put him in a position to succeed, in a position to fail. So I think Shara is going to knock him the fuck out more often than not. And I think that if he doesn't, you know, the Shara experience is over. You know, I think it's kind of burst the bubble on what he's capable of in the UFC. But, you know, Marc-Andre Barriault is kind of a canvas, I think, for him to paint a picture on. And I think he's going to do just that. So I think it's Shara Magomedov by knockout. What do you think, buddy?
Yeah. It's a hard to think of it any other way, right? Just because there's a world where MAB wins, and that's if he forces it to the clinch, gets him against the fence, starts some grappling, starts some wrestling, puts the pressure on him, looks like real deal power bar, the old power bar. Unfortunately, he's 35, and to get to that clinch or that area, you're going to get kicked in the stomach, you're going to get kicked in the head, you're going to get kicked in the face, you're going to get elbowed, spinning back fist, whatever he decides 30 ways coming your way. And I don't know if Marc-Andre's chin has really has it left. The one thing I will say, I think that a sneaky look on this fight is the over. And the reason is, if you watch, and we just talked about this on the other show I was on too, if you watch most of Shara's fights, the kicks don't really start at the head. They start at the feet and they start at the body while he finds his range. So he gives you 2.5 minutes of just keeping space, touching, figuring out range, and he downloads. The 1.5 will get sweaty in the second round when he found his range and he starts cooking. But I think that like the over 1.5 is, I want to say it's plus. No, it's actually mine. It's chalk. But I don't know. I kind of like the over instead of picking a side. Like the over here. You can also, I think, what is Shara minus 3.5? There's a spread line on him. I'm doing spread of the week like I do every week, and I think for the first time ever, it's going to be a parlay, and it's going to be Tabitha Ricci and Shara Bullet, because I do think Shara finds the finish at some point. There's no way I lost internet again. There's no way. Oh, okay, so it's Liam frozen. All right, guys. This is the Picks by Pegasus show. I'm your host, Picks by Pegasus, running it for Liam. We'll go on to the next fight while we wait for Liam. I don't really know. I think he'll be able to join, but I think he'll be able to bring himself up here. Who knows? Co-main event. Petr Yan versus Marcus McGee, right? Going to be an interesting fight just because of the pocket boxing of Marcus McGee. I think Petr Yan has struggled lately with the power on the feet. We've seen Petr Yan hurt now in multiple fights, right? And when we're looking at that, I'm talking about he got hurt against Figgy, he got hurt against Song, and he got hurt against Merab. All 3 fights, he's been hurt. Am I allowed to share screen here? Yes, I can. All right, let's do this. I'll keep this going while he's gone. Take a look right here. Do it this way. All right. So we'll keep this going for a little while we go. I'm sure he'll be back. Let's see. Still showing me full screen. Present. Says I'm sharing the screen. I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you guys can see the screen. But like I said, this might just be too much too soon for a guy in Marcus McGee. Like I said, we hurt we've seen Jan hurt lately, and the pocket boxing McGee is good. It's strong. We don't know how he's going to look over the fight. He's going to have issues later on. We know Peter Yan likes to take time, download the fights. And lately in a 3-round fight, I think he knows now in his career it's shit or get off the pot for him. So he has to get something going here. And I think in the he'll probably take 2 minutes to get his reads, and then he'll start going at it. You probably watched Jonathan Martinez fight too, where, Marcus McGee's leg got chewed up. And I think Peter Yan, devastating leg kicks, not as good as Martinez, but they're close. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think it's going to be a snowball effect. I think Peter Yan's still going to be Peter Yan. Line obviously describes that as well. I'm trying to make Marcus McGee plus 3.5, but it's just one of those things where it's just one of those fights that we got to see what type of Peter Yan we get. We got to see if there's a decline there. I don't really think there will be, just because it is Peter Yan, but he's been away. He's been injured. I mean, the Figgy fight doesn't really impress me too much just because we're getting the ghost of Figgy here. It's going to be tough to see. I wish Liam was here because he could break it down better. But I don't know. Is McGee live? Actually, I don't think I can pull up comments. I can't pull up comments. So Green King said, is McGee live here? I mean, crazier things have happened. Liam, if you're in the chat, I had the issue too. I switched over to my cell phone and used my cell phone as a hotspot. So now my internet works. But I love the idea of this live bet that Gio just mentioned. If Peter Yan does drop round 1, now we're talking about getting Peter Yan minus 200, minus 180. I love that bet there because round 2, round 3, Peter Yan's going to throw it. But we got to see what round 2, round 3 looks like for Marcus McGee. And listen, hungry dogs run faster. We know Marcus McGee is 35 years old. He's going to be hungry. He wants his time to be now. And if we talk about age in the sense of, Marcus McGee is the older man on paper and on his birth certificate. But if we talk about fight years, he is a lot younger than Peter Yan is. And he's at that gym, MMA Labs, where we don't know what's in the water. He's striking with guys like Mario Bautista, like guys like Sean O'Malley. So he's getting good looks in the gym. He's been the guy at that gym, but he's been overshadowed by guys like Bautista, Jared Cannonier, Sugar Sean, where they're the bigger names. I don't know. Could be live. Could be interesting. Like I said, the plus 3.5 is minus 105. We know Yan does sometimes fight on the closer end of decisions at times, kind of like Liam just said with the split decision. But I don't know. It's a tough fight. I kind of like a live line if you're going to play Yan, maybe a round 3 finish prop. If you want to get cheeky with it, I think it's pretty live odds. Or, I mean, like I said, McGee was plus 120 on BetOnline for spread, but also minus 105 for the spread on DraftKings, I think it is. Go to the distance. I think it's chalk. I'll tell you in 2 seconds. Go to the distance is, the over of 2.5 is minus 360. So fight goes is minus 260 to minus 300. I don't hate that as like a parlay leg because both guys get finished. Liam, is there a way to get you back up here, or are you only able to do the chat? All right. I'll just keep it going until you figure something out when we can come back and you can recap these, because then at least my part will be done. Let's go back here and take a look.
We're here. What's good, boys? What's good?
All right.
The internet literally just shit out at my house. I don't know what else to say. I pay for good internet. It's been a fucking disaster.
We live relatively close to each other, so that could be the same issue.
Dude, if you have Spectrum or if you've ever dealt with them, the fucking worst. I call them and I say, hey, guys, like my internet cuts out. They go, we'll send you a credit on the bill. Yeah, thanks, but my fucking internet doesn't work when I need it.
Yeah,
so that doesn't really fucking help me, dude. Yeah, exactly. It's like, why? Geez. I'll save you guys the tirade, but thank you very much for holding down the fort, my brother. You are a G for that. The solo stream goat right there. I'll fucking hit a super rapido fire on that last fight just to catch the people up to speed. Appreciate y'all bearing with me. I was just about to start in on my phone when I saw the Wi-Fi light go back blue, and I was like, let's go. We got a chance. So here we go, guys. This fight, basically for me, comes down to this. There's two ways that I could envision playing this. Number one, lean into, hey, you know what? If Petr Yan's going to cover this line, he's going to treat this guy accordingly. He's going to say, hey, you're 35 years of age. I'm a champion. You're a guy that's never been on that level. I'm going to go out there and finish you. I'm going to go out there and beat you up. Frankly, when you look at Marcus McGee, only loss on his pro record, dude got choked out, right? Tough. It happens, right? It's part of doing business. That last fight against Jonathan Martinez basically cooked his leg to the point where the guy's ready to go home. And then all of a sudden, Martinez pushes him into the fence, and it's like the only guy who didn't know that he was done was Martinez. So it's just like you look at Petr Yan, he's got devastating calf kicks. He's got some power in his hands. He's not a useless grappler. His wrestling, I would say, is the most underrated part of his game. The guy's been taken down 2 or more times by like 3 guys, and 2 of them are from the great state of New York. New York boys teach you how to wrestle once again. Y'all know that. But when you look at it, it's like Petr Yan, outside of the New York boys, outside of fucking Dodson, like, 10 years ago or something, I'm half kidding, like 7. It's like this guy's basically been very difficult to take down, very difficult to outgrapple at all. And then on the feet, he's a marauder. He comes forward. He hits like a truck. So I think Marcus McGee, like the upside for him in this fight is flash KO or probably a split decision. Like I'd be a little bit surprised to see him go out there and accomplish something that Aljo couldn't do, like take him down and submit him, right? Like I'd be pretty astounded by that. So I think he's got to do it on the feet, and it's like, I think Marcus McGee can bang on the feet. I think he's a good striker, like flat out, just a good striker. But I also think the same thing is true of Petr Yan, and he's done it at a higher class, a higher pedigree, frankly, like Song Yadong, another archetype kind of like this, right? A guy who can box, a guy who can wrestle, a guy who's athletic. He just out-wrestled him. He beat him up, took him down, did what he needed to do, won the second and the third rounds, I believe, if my memory serves. So I look at Petr Yan as a guy who's very talented, but I've also seen him go out there and fight down to somebody's level, give them a close split decision type fight. And when you leave a split decision out there, surprising, right? When you frankly don't finish a guy like Davison that I expected him to finish, and you put hands on him, you beat him up, but then you're kind of letting him get back into it a little bit down the stretch. That for me was a little bit surprising. So I think Yan is super impressive. I think he's one of the most aesthetic fighters to watch in the UFC, but I also think Marcus McGee, he's a dog and he does fight hard. He does hit hard. He is an athletic guy for 35 years of age. But Gio in the chat mentioned Yadong is also faster than McGee. I agree. He's younger. He's like a younger version of Marcus McGee. And so I think Marcus McGee maybe a little bit more of that savviness that comes with age, a little bit more of that wisdom. And he's certainly got a great vibe. So it would be immaculate vibes if Marcus McGee goes out there and gets the win. I just think this is biting off a little bit more than he's ready to chew right now. So for me, give me Petr Yan, and the way I'd look to play it is either, like I said, McGee on the money line, if that's the side you're going with, like, hey, leaning into this is a closer fight than the odds play out, fair enough. But otherwise, I'd be looking maybe at some finish props on the Yan side. Hey, finish what Jonathan Martinez started, go out there, put some hurt on this guy. Yep. But then we have the main event, my man. And I think, we've had a little bit of dissension. Or not even dissension so much as like, hey, we're both given like, hey, it's a competitive fight, but maybe I'm leaning a little bit this side, you're leaning a little bit that side. But we can both see the arguments, right? In this fight, I think we're going to end up on the same one, my man. I'm going to cue it up to you first, and let's hear what you have to say about the main event of the evening. Robert Whittaker, Reinier de Ridder, who gets the job done?
I told the story before. Me and Drav fought for 4 weeks over this. I was on the Whittaker side. He was on the RDR side. We were arguing about it. Not that either of us had money on it at the time. We were just arguing over. I'm a Rob Whittaker guy. It's hard not to be a fan of a guy who's a great guy in the cage and outside the cage. All around great guy. Here's the issue. We've watched Whittaker. His one problem is guys that are a lot bigger than him and a lot more physical. We're talking about a guy in RDR now who is big, physical, an elite grappler, and is a light heavyweight champ and a 185 champ. Now he's coming in and fighting Rob Whittaker, where Whittaker's career is kind of on the decline and RDR is on the rise. A lot of people are going to talk about the Bo Nickel fight. The scrambles against Bo Nickel were insane. It was a good grappling thing there, but it just comes down to me is like you saw what Reinier did. He dug deep and beat up Bo Nickel and made the young man quit. And that's something that's tough to do, especially for, a multi-time NCAA champion guy in Bo Nickel with a ton of grit. But I don't know. Something tells me here that de Ridder is going to come in here and maybe find the finish early, because there's something weird about this, right? RDR is plus 140, but the under 2.5 is minus 110. If it was a little wider, you could say one of these lines is wrong, because you got to assume you watch GM3 versus Reinier de Ridder. De Ridder it was like they were fighting in sand in the third round, and you watch GM3. GM3 looked like almost like a Golden Glove boxer against de Ridder, and everyone's sitting there watching this like, oh my God, I can't believe how bad this looks. Now Reinier de Ridder comes out, beats up O'Nickel, looks like he's a Muay Thai champion, and any guy who looks like how he did against GM3 against Whittaker is going to get knocked out. So I think you got to look at like overs, right? Overs in the sense that if the fight goes over 3 rounds, I think it's Rob Whittaker's fight. At that point, Reinier de Ridder is tired. He's getting beat up long term. That being said, early finishes, most likely going to be de Ridder. And I ended up betting myself Reinier de Ridder plus 135 just because it's that intangible, the physicality and the size. He's just going to be a massive human being standing in front of Rob Whittaker. He made GM3 look small. And GM3 is not a huge dude, but GM3 is tall, bigger frame. Rob Whittaker is fighting at 170 at one point. So, I don't know. I think the elite physicality, the drive up, and just what Reinier's put together lately may just drive him to the top here. Unfortunately, we might have to see Rob Whittaker lose again. What do you think, Liam?
Well, here's one thing right off the rip. The only 2 guys to ever submit our friend Gerald Meerschaert inside the UFC. And by the way, Gerald follows me on Twitter, the absolute GOAT. I salute for American Jiu-Jitsu and everything GM3 has accomplished. But the only 2 guys to ever submit him are one Jack Hermanson and Reinier de Ridder inside the UFC. Obviously, he's been submitted before that when he was early in his professional run. But you look at overall, Reinier de Ridder, I've kind of been singing this guy's praises since the GM3 fight. And I'll explain fully why. You look at a guy like GM3, and how has he made his bread in the UFC? For the most part, it's round 2 and 3. I take over. You start to get tired. I pick up the pack. I get you into, hey, let's find out who's tougher, who wants it better, cardio. And guys like Edmund Shabazian, athletic, big, strong guys folding up to 10, right? And what do you see from a guy like Reinier de Ridder? He actually, he did 2 things that you'll rarely ever see. He made Gerald Meerschaert not want to grapple. Gerald, there was a couple of times I think Reinier kind of pulled guard in the first round, and Gerald was like, no, fuck that, and he stood up out of it, and then you see he did that, but also he gassed out Gerald Meerschaert to the point where Gerald Meerschaert had nothing left to give in the third round. He was literally a spent force. And when you look at RDR, when he came to the UFC, I was skeptical because of some of the visuals I saw against Malikin. I've said before, losing the fight, no problem. But some of the visuals of laying on the ground, looking up, feeling sorry for yourself, I don't always love that, right? But the one thing you got to note is Malikin is a fucking heavyweight, right? And Reinier de Ridder is a big guy for middleweight, but for heavyweight, he's a very small man. And that was made extremely apparent when he's out there against Malikin, who hits like a truck, who's a lot heavier, got more weight in his ass. And frankly, I said before, I think Rugrug would smash Budai into a million pieces. Would not Anatoly Malikin fucking beat up Robert Whittaker? Even though Robert Whittaker is a better fighter than he is, skill for skill, in my opinion. Bigger dude. He's a way bigger dude. He hits like a truck, and he's fucking juiced to the tits. There's a lot of things working in his advantage there. So when I just look at Rob Whittaker, and the thing, I'll just acknowledge up front, guys. I always tell you, celebrate the wins, own the losses. I've done really well handicapping some guys. I've done really poorly handicapping other guys. Robert Whittaker, I fucking donated it against this guy a number of times. I've thought a lot of guys were going to beat Robert Whittaker, and he proved me wrong many times. The sweetest of just desserts was when Duplessis, the biggest goof of the whole troop that everybody made fun of, and he has no chance, he goes out there and finishes him, put the money in the bag. That was an exciting one. But Rob has taken a lot of coins from me. So I'll just acknowledge going in, I knew what side I was going to be on when this fight was announced in terms of which side I'm going to pick. I haven't bet money on this. I would prefer over 2-1 in order to get involved. I do think Robert Whittaker is a public UFC name, much more well-known, millions of followers on Instagram, a guy that, people know who this guy is. And against Ikram Al-Skarov, they got paid, and maybe the same thing happens here. He's a devastating guy when he gets his game going. He's got big head kicks. He's got power in his hands, he's not a bad wrestler. He's not a bad grappler. But I look at Reinier de Ridder, and I said I've been singing his praises since the GM3 fight, because the GM3 fight showed me when he needs to dig deep at his own weight class against another guy of commensurate size and skill, he could do it, he could break him, and he could win. That's impressive. Then he goes out there against Kevin Holland, and I thought he was going to take Kevin Holland's lunch money. That's exactly what he did. I thought it was going to be a first-round stoppage. What is remembered is that he submitted him, right? Kevin sucks. And what is not remembered is that he actually beat the shit out of Kevin. Like, he literally fucking beat his ass so bad, brutalized him with ground and pound, whooped him, right? So then you look at, okay, he comes out there for the Bo Nickel fight, and, you know, right before the fight, I'm getting plus 3XX. I'm like, okay, let's find out, you know, to win 2 units on Reinier. And it's one of my favorite live calls ever. Let me see if I can pull this up on the thing. And y'all tell me in the chat if you can hear this. I hope you guys can hear this.
And a nice knee, 2 nice knees. I think Bo Nickel's hurt. Reinier de Ridder is backing him up. Oh my! Bo Nickel is looking to defend it.
This is my favorite live call ever.
I am not liking these reactions from Bo Nickel at all. Bo Nickel is looking like a man who does not want to be in there with a world-class athlete who's beating him up to the body. He's showing horrible reactions. Bo Nickel looks like a man who's defeated. Right now, Reinier de Ridder is walking him down with impunity, landing huge shots, punching him in the clinch, kneeing him to the body, and he's gone down. Bo Nickel just quit. It's over. Cash my fucking money, first of all. Cash my fucking money. Go back and read my article on Rotographs.
Yeah. Good call.
Oh, my goodness. Dude, I said in the article, I think that he's going to spurn odds makers and go out there and beat Bo Nickel. Here's the truth, though. Bo Nickel, not as complete a fighter as Robert Whittaker. So you got to be fair and say it was a good win, but it definitely leaves some questions, right? That's why you're getting plus money. But the truth is, guys, before he came to the UFC, one does not simply pass the guard of Andre Galvao. Go back and watch that match.
I love that
grappling match. By the end of those grappling matches, do you know what was happening, dude? He was getting tired. Andre Galvao was fucking exhausted dealing with this guy, grabbing a hold of him, trying to rip him to the ground, and he was starting to fatigue badly. And so I think that Reinier de Ridder, I described it before as fighting at a suicide pace, you know, and like, it's a suicide pace. It's a good day to die. Reinier de Ridder understands going in. If this doesn't work, it's going to end in catastrophe. Not I'm going to lose. I'm going to lose badly. I'm going to get smoked. But he's going out there, in my opinion, knowing that he's going to be throwing knees to the body, trying to wear this guy down, trying to get Robert Whittaker to clinch with him so he can fall to the ground, so he can create a grappling exchange, because this guy's fucking ridiculous on the ground. He's got insane sweeps. He's got some of the highest quality jiu-jitsu, in my opinion, in the division, if not in the sport. And so I look at all that and say, like, Reinier de Ridder plays for keeps, man. He's a really fucking good grappler, really fucking good. On the feet, he's a bit of a liability, a bit of a defensive void. You talked about, you know, Bryce Mitchell doesn't really get the respect as a striker. And I think it's because he's got good striking offense, but his defense is a little bit of a void, right? I think the same thing is kind of true of Reinier de Ridder. I think defensively at times his hands aren't in the right spot. He's kind of making some awkward choices. And those are the kind of things that could get you clipped by a world-class operator. But I also know that Dricus du Plessis basically absorbed Robert Whittaker coming in for his blitz, right? Rob tried to go to a underhook, tried to go grab a hold of him on the body lock, and he hit a fucking schoolyard side headlock, put him on the ground, hit him with a bunch of fucking, how are you feeling about these, right? Just knuckle sandwiches, and then is basically setting up a Darce, using the Darce threat to just thread in big elbows, and he's big dogging him. He's just big bodying him. He fucking took his lunch money on the ground. And I think that du Plessis is a little bit more of a physical hoss, and I described him affectionately as a gorilla. Like, he's a little bit more of a gorilla than even Reinier de Ridder is. But like, if you said, like, Liam, they're having a pure grappling match, you know, du Plessis and de Ridder, I think de Ridder is favored to win that. So it's just absolutely. But again, du Plessis is not a punk. Make no mistake, du Plessis would punk a lot of guys in the middleweight division in a grappling match. But I just think Reinier de Ridder is special. On the mat, in terms of his skill, in terms of his abilities on the ground. He's very clever. He's very creative. I can't quite see it because of the green screen. What you got?
Our boy just hit, they're doing the weigh-ins right now. Our boy just hit the scale. He looks good.
Oh my goodness. Looking like $1 million bucks. But people also mentioned in the chat that you basically saw this guy, you know, going to show up 10, 15 pounds heavier. You know, Reinier de Ridder's big body, and Rob Whittaker, guy's a former 170. Right. And I think people forget sometimes when somebody's like settled into a new weight class, Darren Till put this guy on ice skates with a big elbow.
Yeah.
Rob got hit with a spinning kick from Paulo Costa that made him do the salsa, and then the bell went off, right? So he got to go back to his corner, recompose himself. Israel knocked him out twice. You kind of just in the same fight. It's like you look at Rob's career. He's been clipped on the chin a bunch of times. In terms of age, same age, right? In terms of miles, Rob way deeper on the miles.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons, man, I do think Reinier de Ridder, live underdog in this main event, dogger pass situation. I wanted to say shout out to my guy Ozzy. First of all, pay me my fucking money. That is a great one. But dude, I will say I love calling the fights. I love doing it all live. We get crazy ones, we get fun ones, and that was one of the best that we've ever done. So appreciate everybody who's been rocking with those. I'm gonna try, Lord willing, to get that going again on Saturday for these fights in Abu Dhabi. Peg, I wanted to say thank you so much for stepping up on short notice, my brother. Bro. I had a blast. You even held down the fort when the Wi-Fi monster came and attacked the show, but we got to the end. We got 61 great people rocking with us live as well. The sharpest chat in the game has assembled once again, this time on short notice, just like our great guests. So, Peg, if you don't mind, tell the people about the Beat the Line broadcast. Tell the people where they can find all the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, guys. So Beat the Line broadcast. You don't know us already. We've had Liam on multiple times already. He's one of our favorite guests to have. It's me, Dravi, Key 3 Picks. We've been doing it for about a year now. We love doing this stuff for you guys, making you guys money. Beat the Line broadcast on YouTube and on Twitter. You can find me, Picks by Pegasus. My picks, I don't charge anything. They're all free. They're in our Discord. I post them every week. We're profitable this year. We're like 10% ROI, I think, something like that. So we're doing well. Everything's been going good, and I think this is going to be a big bounce back card for us. I love some of the spots we have, and Beat the Line broadcast, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere, Discord. Check us out. Our videos posted. And Liam, thanks again, man, for having me. I appreciate it. Love to do the show again. Whenever you need someone, just give me the call. I'm ready.
Absolutely, brother. Now I know it's like Dana White with Kevin Holland. He's like, call Big Mouth. And then he stepped up on short notice. Now, anytime he needs somebody, he's calling Kevin Holland.
Yes,
now I got you in the Rolodex, brother. A official friend of the show. Appreciate you being here, my man. And you're welcome anytime. Also, guys, if you're looking for information from Peg, guys, I did put all this down in the description box below. So if you're looking forward, like you said, the Discord, the Beat the Line broadcast on YouTube, all that stuff, it's linked down in the description for your convenience. I hope that you guys enjoy. I will say this, tomorrow, I will be live with my brother Wiz. Stay tuned for an announcement. Stay tuned for a time. We'll have something for you. Post weigh-in show. That's what we're going to have. And then, like I said, Lord willing, game time decision, but we should be going live as well for some alternate commentary during the fights. So one step at a time. We're going to get through tomorrow's stream first. We're going to beat the Wi-Fi monsters. I'm going to go get some Spectrum guys on the phone to go give them some grief. But ultimately, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. If you enjoyed the show, drop a like. If you have comments, questions, if you have a favorite bet, go ahead and fire that off in the comments down below. Get subscribed to the channel and come back next time because we're having all the same fun again. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
You got it. Reese. All right, bro.